Good evening,
my
everyone.
daughter get mad at me for going to Starbucks. They said that they supporting the bombing of the Palestinians or something.
Well. Good evening, everyone.
How you doing?
All right.
Hello.
This is Everett. What's going on?
Ain't nothing much. This Hamp. Ain't nothing going on but the cold. What's up, E? What's up, bro?
All right. But I just, before I get into the subject, I got into I heard Dr. James talking about somebody got mad at him because he went to Starbucks because they supporting the bombing of the Hamas or vice versa. They support the Hamas bombing the Israelis. And that kind of has something to do with the topic I have tonight. So, Brother Hamp, it's 8:30 Central Time, 9:30 Eastern Time. I'm not gonna let you introduce me tonight. I'm gonna introduce myself.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm not gonna go all extravagant, but I found out that I was doing the topic a couple of nights ago, and I did some research. On the topic that I'm going to bring. And I'm going to start out with the topic, but I almost talked about what Dr. James was talking about earlier. How do people feel about the Israeli and the Hamas conflict that's going on right now? But I'm going to nip that in the bud, and I'm going to say I don't think there's nothing we can really do, because just like the Iraq and Iran conflict, that fight goes way back to biblical times. And it all comes down to left wing hold on one second. But anyway, I'm gonna ask a question to the group. I ask you once I get started, because I got a little lengthy introduction to the topic tonight. How many of you know what CRT is?
Good evening. You said CRT as in Tom or P as in Paul?
Say that again.
Did you say CRT as in Tom?
Yeah, CRT as in Tom.
Yeah, I know what that is. Okay.
Go ahead and tell me what it means to you or what you think it is. That's crazy.
Well, critical race theory is basically it's the idea that race is a social construct, which it is, and a lot of people are having a problem with CRT being taught in schools because they are debating whether children that are not of color need to learn about the truth when it comes to the history of America from everybody's point of view.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure that was Miss Angela speaking on that. Critical race theory. So I had to report to my office earlier this morning. And I always go to, if you don't have a topic to talk about, you can Google good topics to talk about for a podcast. And I just went through a different, things and what could I talk about. And I came up just scrolling on the internet today, and the Oklahoma, I guess the school superintendent for the state, and he's the top education official in Oklahoma, is warning textbook publishers if they can't teach basic academics without pushing indoctrination, they shouldn't bother bringing their curriculum to the state. He says, look, for me, that's absolutely fine. If you can't teach math without talking about transgenderism, go to California, go to New York. And that superintendent's name is Ryan Walters. So I looked at critical race theory, and I had some notes written down, but I didn't get back to my office in time to print out everything that I could because I had something that came up. So it's saying that, critical race theory and race itself, it was just like people of color, or if you're a non-white, critical race theory. And here's the deal. And this Oklahoma official, the conservative official, has been at the forefront. Now, we're talking about the state of Oklahoma. I was trying to do something where all of us could speak because I didn't want to go to Louisiana. But then he said, go to New York, basically a liberal state. Go to California, a very liberal state. But this conservative official has been at the forefront, and listen to this, of the state's battle against left-wing ideologies in public schools. Recently, several publishers of math texts withdrew their petitions to be included in the state curriculum after Walter warned them Oklahoma would not accept textbooks that have critical race theory and social emotional learning content. Now, my thing was, why would anyone bring up the subject of a transgender or the LBTGQ? I don't really know all the letters, but why would that even be brought up in teaching math? And, but if we this is just a guy in Oklahoma, and these are all, right-wing Republicans talking about this. And the biggest one was in Florida, where Governor DeSantis, was taking about, want to take out the Black History Month, Black History Week, whatever we have. And it's, now, I'm like this. If you're teaching history, and a lot of people think that what happened in the past is the past and shouldn't be brought up. But without that, we as people of color should be able to know what happened to us, what happened to our ancestors, and they should give a clear picture, and I think it should be taught in the school. But when it comes to, I don't know where the transgender or that part comes in, the math portion. But let me read something else that this governor said. He sent a clear message to vendors if they violated the law in order to push gender ideology and CRT-type philosophies in their textbooks, they were not welcome to business in the state. Now, we're talking about the state of Oklahoma.
Come on,
in Oklahoma, our kids are going to know the basics. We want them to master it. I agree with that. We want them to do exceptionally well academically. I agree with that. He explained we're not here for any kind of Joe Biden's socialist, Marxist training ground. Now, when you talk about a socialist, Marxist training ground, you're talking about socialism or communism, and that goes back to the middle 50s before I was born. Karl Marx and the socialists. I understand socialism, and my dad used to always tell me, I said, well, he said, what are you going to major in when you go to college? I said, I'm going to major in sociology. He said, you don't have to major in sociology. You already have a degree in that. And at that time, at 17, 18 years old, I didn't understand, but I kind of know where he says. So, and I'm going to read one more paragraph from this governor, and I'm going to open up the floor. If a vendor cannot produce textbooks that actually help our students understand math, and he's talking about math, and like I said, I don't know where the subject of transgender LBQGP, or however the letters are, comes with this. And understand better science, they can go somewhere else. We've got plenty to choose from. And I know there's going to be plenty of folks that are able to get us great materials for our school. Besides challenging incoming texts, Walter said the state has taken several steps to empower parents and teachers while protecting children in Oklahoma schools. They passed a Parent Bill of Rights, universal school of choice, and a ban on pornographic material. Walters also led a fight against teachers' union in the state, whom he says take money away from teachers and promote radical political ideology rather than education in public schools. Now, this is where I come to say the left always think that their ideas are correct, and if you don't agree with them, you're wrong. And the right also make their stand. And if you're teaching this, that you got to think like us or you're wrong. But my take is I don't think any type of, I'll just use an example. I saw something where they were having a cross-dressing festival, and they're teaching it to these kids to let them know you can make a choice to be what you want to be. Now, I agree with if you want to live that type of life, liberty lets you do that. There's a difference between liberty and freedom. We got liberty. Everyone of other color has freedom. But I don't think that an elementary school kid or a 3 or 4-year-old knows that I'm a man, I'm a little boy, but I want to be a woman. I'm a little girl, I want to be a man. I don't think that between the age of 1 to 2, any age, I just really don't understand that. So, CRT is the topic tonight, and I know we can go all over the place, but I'm just pretty much concentrated on what the Oklahoma Superintendent of Schools said, and I've seen this from a lot of people. And as you know, I read this. It was a Fox News thing, not a CNN thing. And California is I think, kind of gone overboard with how they want to present. CRT, I'm all about. I think we should, as people of color and people of non-color, should understand what our race went to. They're trying to say race is just something that a word that was invented, and they like to use the word woke when they talk about Democrats or the left-wing ideology. So if I made any sense to any of you tonight, I'm going to open up the floor. But tonight's topic is critical race theory. And are we basically living in a society that practices systemic racism? Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Everett Gardner, also known as the Fabulous P.B. Brown. That is the introduction. I will be popping in with comments, but the floor is open. And I'm going to ask you this before you start. And I just want to say this. We had all, I'm going to not get off the subject, but I did find a grown folks YouTube that Forrest was on earlier. So like I said, we're going to pick brains of people that within the network to see how we can get this podcast over on the YouTube network. And Hamp and I have been, that's a question he asked me a lot, and I did that much research, but now I just got to pick the brains of the people that do that, if you're on tonight, and inform us how we can do that and start recording on YouTube. So, with that being said, the floor is open, and if you're not actively speaking, please put your phone on mute so that the person talking can have the floor. And once they're done, if you have something to say, feel free to jump in. But everyone else, please mute your phones. And I'm going to mute my phone and open the floor for discussion. Welcome to the Concerned Citizens Coalition version of Grown Folks Talking. Tonight's subject, CRT. What does it mean to you? Have you had any research on it? If not, I will continue to speak because my focus today was on, that's the first thing I kind of came up on after I looked for topics and saw not the governor, but the school superintendent for the state of Oklahoma, who is a staunch Republican, extremely right-wing. Like I say, you have some extreme left-wingers who want things to happen, and they're fighting against it. And that's other thing. And if this discussion doesn't go the allotted time, we will discuss what's going on in Israel, and that's also a pro-left, pro-right opinions on that. So good evening, everyone. This is Everett. Welcome you on behalf of my chairman, Hamp Smith, and the lady who handles a lot of our business, Miss Angela, down in Lafayette, Louisiana. Good evening. Welcome to the podcast, and the floor is open. The floor is open, and it's pretty quiet. So I can continue to talk about what this guy says, and I'm sure that as I continue to read his opinions on certain things, I will get some feedback. But he has a mission to overhaul the school system, come down to getting kids to focus on the basics like reading, writing, history. He says instead of woke indoctrination. Now the word woke kind of throws me. I looked that up a long time ago. It says we're not talking about flamer. We're not talking about gender queer. We're not talking about make-believe genders. We're talking about the truth, reality, and we're going to get our kids ready to go by focusing on the basics. And remember, the quotes that I'm shooting to you right now are from the school, the education leader in the state of Oklahoma. And the way that I chose that topic, because we're right here in Louisiana, 2 states away from Oklahoma. I grew up in the state of Texas. Oklahoma is our neighbor. And it says the left-wing ideology not only lies to kids and warps their worldview, he said it is also linked to poor academic standards in school. Now, his example, Tulsa Public Schools, he said, first violated the state's ban on CRT in the classroom. Now, I don't think that CRT should be banned in the classroom. Critical race theory goes back to how we were treated hundreds of years ago as slaves. Like I say, you can bring it to some systemic racism in this country right now. And U.S. history classes, and I agree with this, to teach students to look at the principles the country was founded on. And this threw me. Said, look at the principles the country was founded on. Okay, the United States, everybody wants to say it's a democracy, but it's a republic. And if you ever did the pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic in which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. But how can you say liberty and justice for all when that thing was written way back in 1700s or around the time the Constitution was written, the Bill of Rights and all of that? And most of those guys that wrote that Constitution were slave owners. I think I've read enough or spoken enough to get some discussion started. And like I said earlier, the floor is open. I'm putting my phone on mute. But if we have another 30 seconds of silence, I'll continue to elaborate on the research that I have stumbled upon today. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to CCC Podcast, 8:30 Central Time to 10 o'clock Central Time. And go ahead. I know somebody ready to speak. I'm going to mute my phone. Okay. Go ahead. Yes.
Did somebody say something?
Not yet.
Nope.
Well, it's Dr. James. I want to say something a little bit. Let me just figure out, are you talking about gender, like gender identification, or are you talking about race, critical race theory? Which one? We talking about both or what?
Well, it kind of ties into both because the critical race theory is, like I said, a lot of the states are trying to ban that, but then you have different subjects that come up, and like this superintendent said, if you're going to teach math and stick to that. Not how can you tie? My question, I was kind of agreeing with this. What does race relations have to do with math, and what does I'm going to see if I can get these letters right. LB, I don't know. It's in here somewhere, but LBQTG, transgenders. But anyway, what does that have to do with anything that's taught in the classroom? Now, the critical race theory, I think everything that was brought up about us, that should be taught in a history class. Shouldn't have nothing to do with the math or any other thing that you're trying to learn. Stick to the basics. But it's a CRT subject, Dr. James, and also I will get into the gender identification thing later, but it's all ties into this.
Well, as far as the critical race theory is concerned, I think it affects all aspects of life, because even when you look at the math, when you go to the higher level maths, they tell you different things like they'll say when you're learning, like, say, geometry, they'll tell you this is called Pythagorean theorem. But Pythagorean is some sort of Greek person, and they're trying to give him the credit for making up this theory when he didn't make it up. It came from the Africans. See? And if you really look at the history, many of the things they taught us in math, as far as the history of math, were lies. Most of this geometry came from the building the pyramids. They didn't tell us that in school. They told us about Pythagorean and Copernicus, all these Greek people. Then what happened was the Greeks, they went over to Africa and they learned the geometry and the math from Africa, and then they brought it back to Europe and gave it their name and said they invented it. See, so the race theory affects us in many different ways, even in math. If you look at the name of the mathematical system that we use, we were taught two different mathematical systems. We were taught Roman numerals, invented by the Romans, and we were taught the Arabic system, 0 through 9 is the one we use right now, and that was invented by the Arabs. It's called the Arabic system. They don't tell us that in school. They just start teaching us 1, 2, 3, 4. But that number system was invented by the Arabs. It's called the Arabic system. And in the days when they invented that, those Arabs were black. So the Arabs were black at that time. And see, so even with the math, black people have had influence, a strong influence over it. But if you don't tell these people, a lot of the kids, when they go to school, the white kids think that they invented it, their ancestors. And I have so many black kids in school to say, oh, I can't do the math. It's too hard. And I try to tell them, well, black people invented this math. They don't know that. They think some white guy, a Greek guy invented it. And it's too hard for them. So even math, they should tell the truth about where this math came from. And they don't even want to do that. Now, all subjects, some subjects you don't necessarily have to go into black history, but black history affects a lot of things, even chemistry, cooking. Even the slaves they invented all kinds of stuff. George Washington Carver, where he invented peanut oil and so forth. That's chemistry. All that type of stuff, they don't tell you. You had Alexander Graham Bell. He invented a lot of things, right? Yeah, was he the one? No, Thomas Edison. He was the one in New Jersey. Invented the light bulb. And he had a black man standing right next to him, telling him what to do. But they couldn't give the black man no credit. And that's physics. See, so we have black people involved with everything. So you can't say that black people had nothing to do with math. We invented it. Now, as far as the same-sex thing and all, gender thing, I don't think you tell no 3-year-old nothing like that. Now, if you're a grown person, you make your own decision. But you should let a 3-year-old just play and have fun. There's no need for a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old to be that serious to be worrying about their gender like that and all that stuff. I don't think so anyway. That's my opinion. I'm finished.
Thank you. But a lot of people, I was looking at something the other day, and I was just like, people said this is wrong because they're introducing like cross-dressers I haven't seen it on TV yet because I don't look at too many TV stations. But they're, having like transgender shows in elementary schools, junior high schools. But just to say something that you talked about earlier, and we were talking about mathematics, it says, and we're going to have to do some research to find out something different. The father of mathematics is none other than the ancient Greek mathematician Archimedes, born and raised in the Sicilian city of Syracuse. Archimedes is known for his contributions to mathematics, astronomy, and physics. His developments in math include the Archimedean property, the Archimedes principle, and early procedures to modern calculus. Archimedes, who is the father of math, served his lifetime discovering various concepts, methods, and techniques in mathematics and science. Now, just because he was a Greek, now the picture they show is a white man with a beard. And, he could have been a black man or a person of color from Africa that went to Greek. But we'd have to do a lot of different research to see. But I said a lot of different things that race related to us of like blood plasma. Dr. Charles Drew. To say the person that invented the traffic light, I can't remember his name, but supposedly a black man. But we don't get that credit. Like I say, there has to be a lot of research to say who did what, when, and where. But like I said, the research I did earlier today was basically on of what it just caught my eye early this morning because I was searching for topics to talk about tonight, and it was the superintendent of schools of Oklahoma. And then during that same time I was doing research, how many of you, I don't know if it was on Lifetime or one of those channels, saw the story of Dr. Ben Carson?
I know a little bit about his history, a little bit.
Okay. Anybody else that saw the movie that they made about it? Because he did a thing that even a black or white doctor would not thought about doing at that time. Back in the 70s or late 60s, he separated two Siamese twins and did a great job. He's an intelligent guy. But the thing that got me right now, and this is going to get off the subject a little bit, but it still ties in with the subject because it's all about what the left thinks, who are supposed to be Democrats, and then what the right thinks, the conservative Republicans. I think I'm a guy that's kind of in the middle. If I agree with something on one side and something on the other, I take it in the middle and put my own thought on it and go from there. Try to be an intelligent man that thinks for myself. But Ben Carson is a staunch supporter of Donald Trump. I know this is going to get some banter going. He's a staunch supporter of Donald Trump and says if Donald Trump is not reelected or does not make it through the 2024 campaign, America is in trouble. And I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
You know why he's like that? One of the reasons. I can't tell you every reason, but I know one thing. He's a doctor, and he don't like Obama. And a lot of doctors didn't like Obama because I didn't care for him either too much because he changed the health insurance around and he made it very difficult for doctors to make money. Now, before Obama started, he had an idea to make Obamacare to give everybody health care. But in order for them to do that, either the Congress would have to approve a lot of money, or he would have to cut certain things so that they could pay for this. And the Congress wouldn't give him as much money as he wanted. So he started cutting how they pay the providers, how they pay the doctors. And that's one of the things with Ben Carson. He's a neurosurgeon, and he used to make a tremendous amount of money. And when they started with all these HMOs and all this capitation and so forth, doctors don't make nowhere near as much money as they used to make. So that's why he probably was a Democrat at first, but he went to the Republicans because the socialized medicine, they call it, is not good for doctors. Doctors don't make as much, and he was used to making a lot. So that's why he probably left and went for Trump. And then Trump appointed him to his cabinet. So then he probably felt fond of Trump. But Ben Carson I think he was running for president because of what Obama did to health care. Yeah, he was running at first because of what Obama did to health care. And I'll tell you the truth. When I was healthcare, when I first started working as a doctor, healthcare is to pay decent money. Then you had, when Clinton got in office, remember when Hillary didn't have no elected position, but she had said she's going to start changing healthcare. And remember, even though she was the first lady, she started making changes to healthcare. And a lot of doctors didn't like that because they started with all these HMOs, and they wouldn't pay the doctors right. They still don't pay the doctors right. So actually, when Clinton was in there the second time, after Hillary changed up the healthcare so much that they wasn't paying the doctors, and you had to join all these HMOs and everything, I voted for Bush. Now I'm not no Republican; I'm a Democrat. But I got mad at Hillary and Bill Clinton for doing that, and I voted for the Republican. Then I switched back and voted for Obama. But I'm just saying, so that's what Ben Carson was doing. He was mad at Obama and mad at the Democrats, and he don't want social medicine. So that's why he did that. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. James. Now, I'm going to get back to what we were talking about. I'm going to give you the book definition, or the definition that is. I looked up earlier today, and I was writing notes, printing stuff. But it says, critical race theory is an intellectual movement and a framework of legal analysis according to which, number one, race is a culturally invented category used to oppress people of color. And number two, the law and legal institutions in the United States are inherently racist insofar as they function to create and maintain social, political, and economic inequalities between white and non-white people. Now, you have different opinions on this, and a lot of people will say, and you got to even have some blacks, and I can name, I can't think of that one female that everybody hates, but I'll give you an example. The representative or senator from South Carolina. I can't remember his name. He's got his hat in the ring for 2024 presidential nomination. And he's like, I made it. And if you are a person of color, you can make it too. But
that's Scott. His last name's Scott.
There you go. Thank you. Everybody got opportunity to do whatever. But if you live in the inner city, your opportunities might be less than someone who lived in the suburbs. But then I'm going to say this one thing before I open the floor again. It says critical race theory developed in the 1970s as an effort by activists and legal scholars to understand why the U.S. civil rights movement had lost momentum and was in danger of being reversed. Their approach emphasized general and systemic features of the legal system that served to perpetuate race-based oppression and white privilege. So I know that's going to bring up some discussion from some of our more intelligent people, and all of you are intelligent, because others got tons of information about critical race theory. Go ahead. Go ahead and speak.
May I speak?
Go ahead and speak.
So I was under an impression, without much investigation, that whenever I heard about CRT, that it was incorporating Black history. But in fact, it seemed, well, not in fact, but what I'm understanding is that it's about giving a description of the psychology behind why Black people have been placed and attempted to be erased as humans, and teaching that in the schools. If that is the case, if it is explaining what they found to be the reasons, then it would expose the agenda makers to no end, if that is correct. And I could see why they would want to keep it out. So I guess my question is also, who is behind the curriculum of CRT? Whose story is it going to be? And how valid will the information be if it does become part of the teaching system to, not just our students, to everyone? Isn't that funny? Mm-hmm. They start with the with the lower level humans, but I think we all really would like to understand. But we know it's their agenda. We know that, as you mentioned before, and liberty for all. Who's the all they were speaking about?
Liberty and justice.
I got the Constitution, and I realized that we the people were not us. We the people was them. Right. Totally separate from inclusion. Right. Totally separate from inclusion. So CRT with whose signature at the bottom of it? It's very interesting. We tend to, and I don't know, and I guess, someone will explain who knows more than I do. But we are led to protest without realizing what we're protesting and who we are supporting in the protest. Because they brand everything in beautiful Christmas paper. They brand it beautifully. So if CRT is someone's thesis on why the agenda makers did what they did. And I haven't read it, of course. And if anyone here has, information on it and could say it's valid, it's worthy to be taught, then technically we don't even need the schools to teach it. Back to the WWW, World Wide Web, we don't need them to teach it. If it is something effective, it can be taught online globally to everyone so that everyone could understand it, whatever it is that needs to be taught. And when it comes to the first part of the topic, the agenda makers create the isms. They create the isms. If the right wing if the right wing do not want LGBTQ, WXYZ, because they keep adding letters, the agenda makers, if they don't want that being taught, see, there's a difference in teaching you to do it and making you aware of it. There's no way in the world we could hide homosexuality for those who believe in the Bible. It was not new. It's not new. It's not new. You can't hide it. But the agenda makers are creating the numbers of mixed sexuality individuals with the prenatal vitamins. They're creating this because it's science. It's science. However, this is not going to be a don't ask, don't tell situation when it comes to same-sex. And it's not even about same-sex relationships. People need to get out of people's beds. It's about the attraction that one might have to the same sex, or it's about how a person is feeling and feeling free to look the way they feel versus look the way I want you to look. And I believe, just on that note a little bit, that parents are so disturbed by it because just like if their child was born with some other, I can't even talk about normal. Normal is just normal. But with some other birth defect, let's just say, sometimes parents feel responsible. So it's easier for them to ignore it or be against it than to acknowledge they're not responsible. It's something that happened, according to the story, centuries ago, that people are being born with chromosome and hormonal imbalances, which makes them look one way but feel another. And I always use the simple example, if a person can be born with both sex organs, anything short of that is possible. Give God the glory. But no, anything short of that is possible. So anything short of that would be a person who looks like a female, but she grows a beard. And a gentleman who looks like a male, but his voice never cracks and his muscles never tone in the way that a man would. We have to be more accepting of what it is. You don't have to do it. Just understand it is what it is. It's nature. It is what it is. They didn't make themselves that way. And if we are all old enough, see, the funny thing is they brand things differently. When we were kids, it was a sissy and a tomboy. That's what it was when we were children. So every group of people that are born in generations, the words change. But it's all still the same. And it has nothing to do with what people are doing in their bedroom. People should stay out of people's bedrooms because there are people in the LGBTQ community who are not even having sex. Stay out of people's bedrooms and learn to understand who they are and why they are. And if you take a wink, you'll also realize that that community is the most self-sufficient sufficient, self-sufficient, economically, and most creative, naturally, group of people walking this earth. Thank you.
All right, at least now I wrote the letters down right. LBGTQ. I guess that stands for lesbian, bi, gay, transgender, and queer. A term that now, they're used. And if you say something against this society, you're going to be frowned upon. And I'm like this. I think a person, we have this discussion at my place of employment. I hate to call it my place of employment because I really don't do anything. But there's one guy, I think he's confused. And we always tell him a person has the right to live the life that they want to live. And this comes from people that are from both sides of the fence. And I'm telling him, okay, and I agree with him on one thing, this type of behavior should not be forced on kids in school. Yeah, you educate them on it, I think, but the education part comes from, I don't think it should be in the school. But then, like yesterday, a friend of mine, son plays on the high school football team. And the kids got to dress up for Halloween. And she was sitting on pins and needles waiting for a call from the school that she was gonna have to go pick up her son. I said, why would they have to go pick up her son? Because of the way he dressed on Halloween. But here he is, one of the good football players, one of the best football players on the team. He dressed up as a ballerina. And me, not wanting to cause any conflict, I'm like, okay, if that had been my son, he wouldn't have got to leave. He wouldn't have had a chance to leave the house in that type of costume. And she's all over the place on her. When we talk politics, I can tell she's pro-right. But if you are a pro-right wing, you wouldn't allow your son to go out there and dress up a ballerina. Men do ballet. But he dressed up, and I asked my son, my brother, he works at the school, I said, did you see anyone dressed up like this? He said, well, if they had leggings on, sweats, blah, 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 they would be sent home because that's a dress code. But my thing is, as a man, and I'm all man, I'm not going to dress up like no woman. I'm not putting no wig on. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Pastor Geno Jennings. He has a big debate with Ricky Smiley because Ricky Smiley dresses up as a lady called Miss Bernice Jenkins, and he does a skit. And, I think it's funny, but I don't think I would ever be able to do that. And a lot of people criticize Tyler Perry, who is a multi-millionaire, probably close to being a billionaire, on calling it abomination because he dresses up like Madea. And it goes all the way back to Flip Wilson when he played Geraldine, and several guys, prominent actors, have played roles as women. And I say, if it's acting and if that guy got paid for it, that's on him. But that's just something that I thought I'd throw in there after Mr. Vanier gave her thoughts, always intelligent thoughts. So someone else bring something to the table, please. Don't sleep on us tonight. I think we brought an interesting topic to the table, and I would like to hear some feedback from some of you others. So I'm going to mute myself and open the floor once again. And once again, we have too much silence. So, racism in the United States is normal, not aberrational. It is the ordinary experience of most people of color, although extreme racist attitudes and beliefs are less common among whites than they were before the mid-20th century, and explicitly racist laws and legal practices epitomized by the Jim Crow laws that enforced racial segregation. So the topic always comes up, is there still systemic racism in the United States? If you've been denied basic civil rights, like African Americans in the South, they have been largely eliminated. Mostly people of color continue to be routinely discriminated against or otherwise unfairly treated in both public and private spheres, as demonstrated by numerous social indicators. African Americans and Hispanic Americans, Latinos, for example, are on average more likely than similarly qualified white persons to be denied loans, jobs. They tend to pay more than whites for a broad range of products and services, i.e. automobile, home, getting loans and stuff like that. So all this CRT, this all ties in. And the other side, the right wing, don't want to hear this. So they figure like, pull up your bootstraps and get a job and do this and that. But they haven't been on the other side of the track to see how this affects them or how we as a people have been discriminated against. And I know someone else has some thoughts on this. It's not just me, Dr. James, and Mr. Ivadne. So I'm going to mute my mic again and
so
wait for the feedback.
We talking about critical race theory? That's what we're discussing tonight?
Yes, we are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it also ties into where the critical race theory can lead to some of the LGBTQ movement being forced upon our young kids in the schools. But the main topic tonight is critical race theory. So go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I'm listening to the things I'm listening to and hearing what I'm hearing, it just seems like a whole big joke in a sense. I know it's not a joke, but the way that they think they're gonna put this in the history books is just a shock. When you start saying Roselle Parks, she got on the bus for a different reason on the back of the bus. Oh, she chose to be in that situation. It's not the way y'all make it look, and y'all want to make it look different, Like she just wasn't fed up and tired of having to get to the back of the bus. She was tired, just like the next person. But when y'all want to turn the whole thing around, what's been happening all along, and try to make it look differently, because I see that they're doing this because one part of it is that there's a lot of people now that are dealing with it, that European descent, that feel some type of way about it. They're feeling bad about it. We had a Toastmasters session one night, and one of the ladies spoke on her topic, and it really wasn't to do with anything seemingly racial to anyone, but at the same time, she had her colleague on the line, a good friend of hers, and she was saying how good it felt when she went on the trip, how special they treated her. It was like such a different thing, like the color of her skin didn't matter, but at the end of the meet, she was very offended. Her friend was in tears and thought that was a very prejudiced type of topic for her to choose, and she felt some type of way. But these people that weren't there and didn't do it, they weren't there and they didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? But it don't negate the fact that there were some people there that did push, beat, enslave, and do all kinds of unnatural things to people of color. So, I mean, for them to try to erase what happened, I think that it's been talked about on many of these different podcasts. It needs to be a well-rounded scope of everything, which is the truth, which points out who did what, when, where, and how, and who didn't do. You know what I'm saying? Who supported. I'm not a person that's prejudiced. I love everybody. I don't feel like all white people should be held in the same light. So this is, to me, is just another way for us to be at each other, in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Because we're not going to sit back and let you erase the true history. You know, don't erase the truth of our history, what happened with us, and things of that nature, but incorporate all of it. Everybody have a part in history, good and bad. Let's put the good, bad, and ugly all together, put it all out there, and we learn about all of it. And then I don't feel as though in school, I know schools probably felt that at some point in time they had to do what parents weren't doing at home. But I feel like parents should take the responsibility of teaching their children what it is that they should be taught. Unfortunately, a lot of parents are not well-rounded in a sense. They feel like they can't touch on this topic or that topic. I can't talk about this with you or that with you. And so because people have neglected to talk about the important issues with their kids, they push other people in the place of having to do it, because certain things have to be talked about, whether the parents want to talk about them or not. So parents have to go back and take that authority back, just like they have to go back and take the schools back, you know, and line things up the right way. They have to get more involved. People have to get more involved. If you don't want something to be pushed on you, you have to make a stand. And you have to talk to those that you deal with around you, yours. What's your responsibility on who you interact with, and tell them what the truth is. I have no prejudice towards anybody about anything, but I'm not going to do what it is that they're doing. Just because they're doing it, just because society says it's okay, don't mean it's okay. Now, I'm not judging anybody. I'm not in your bedroom. That doesn't mean I have to approve of what you're doing in your bedroom. I don't have to disapprove either. I don't have to be involved at all. I feel like everybody got to they make it one day for themselves, and they got to stand before that judgment day and account for their actions. And he said we're going to account for every idle word. So every word that you push out there, when people pushing things out there, making everything so easily accessible and beautifying it and being an acceptance. I think sometimes people accept things just because they don't have to deal with it. But when it's at home, it feels very different. And I see some parents, you could do whatever you want to, but if you want to, for instance, if you a gay mom or whatever, but if your son come home and he start acting feminine, that's a problem. You know, people say stuff, but they don't really embrace it fully. People just want to do what they want to do, but they're not even thinking about how it's affecting people all around them. So to me, it's just a lot of stuff going on. But, you know, we just have to stand for what's right and whatever we morally believe in. Then that's what we have to, you know, do.
Thank you, Deborah. I got it right? Hello?
Yes, you got it right. You got it right.
I figured I did. But like I said, the CRT, like I said, it comes down to where, like I said, the top educator or school superintendent for the state of Oklahoma is when he was talking about CRT, and his main subject was if you can't teach math or you can't teach this without bringing up basically the LGBTQ movement involved, to teach math. I mean, math, I don't think the CRT, excuse me, ties into that in any way. But like California has got to be one of the most liberal states in the union, and it kind of boils down that I think that if we're gonna teach school, we teach a class, and where does the gender thing fall in? I can see where the critical race thing falls in. I'm going to read another excerpt and say many instances of race behavior directed at people of color take the form of microaggressions, which are verbal or behavioral sites, generally subtle and often unintentional or unconscious, that communicate a stereotype or negative attitude toward a person of color and thus indicate an implicit bias based on race. Microaggressions may also be directed at members of other oppressed or marginalized groups, such as women and the LGBTQ persons. For example, in a real-life case discussed in the CRT literature, doesn't mention any name, it doesn't mention the place, but it says a white professor at an elite university in conversation with colleagues in a campus building saw a black student walking down the hall and immediately exclaimed loudly enough for the student to hear that she should have locked the door to her office because she left her purse there. The common occurrence of racial microaggressions is indicative of the pervasiveness of racist attitudes even among people who consciously reject racism, and their cumulative effect on people of color can be, and an ad popped up, can be psychologically devastating. And I'm going to relate to that saying, you see a black person and a lot of white people are cringe. I was 18 years old, left the state of Texas to come to run track, and I've really come full circle. Right about an hour away from here at Lake Charles, Louisiana, at a school, McNeese State University. And I was a member of the track team. Now, for us to get to practice, we had to leave our dorm and walk across a major street to get to the stadium where we conducted our workouts on a daily basis. And it would be 3 or 4 of us, brothers, together, walking across the campus. When we get to the street where we had to stop at a light and cross that street to go to our practice facility. And this is probably during the time that the first electronic doors or whatever were made. But as we would walk across the street, just let's say 4 or 5 black guys down here in Lake Charles, Louisiana, you could hear the doors locking as we walked across the street, thinking that we were going to be a threat to them. And I say even that was probably 49, almost 50 years ago, and that still weighs heavy on me. I mean, we're just going across the street to go to practice. We're in shorts and T-shirts and running shoes. But just the thought that, as a group of black guys, and you could just hear the doors locking. And I'm sure that, I say 50 years ago, there's probably that same type of thing going on today. I haven't witnessed it a whole lot, but there's places that I go here, and there's a lot of people I'm cool with, but just do certain things and the way me and a couple of guys that run with me, and that's not too many, carry ourselves, be like probably arrogant, and they be like, and the women down here, they kind of like us, and I think some of the guys down here hate that they do.
No,
but I told my buddy the other day, I said, man, you know, anytime somebody is whispering, they're probably not whispering about you. That means you're a self-conscious person. If you haven't done anything to, you know, cause somebody to do that, yeah, just drive on, man, because but racism is alive and well in the United States. It's alive and well. But we live right here in this small town, but it's not as prevalent as it is in some of the other cities. So,
what you said made me think about a story that was told a few weeks back to us in a workshop. And the guy was saying, you know, it was like 3 different teachers in one set, and then he was getting ready to say something to another teacher. He said to the other teacher said he wanted her to leave out because what he's going to say is, you know, she may think it's racial, you know, just them joking around, you know, talking, you know, black, you know what I'm saying? I don't know exactly how he said the word. He said, and looking at the lady, her skin was just as white as it wanted to be, you know what I'm saying? And she got really emotional. She said, I'm black. So it was the case whereas her mother was white and her father was black or something like that. And he said that right there was something that was really not meant to hurt but caused a lot of damage to her. He couldn't apologize to her enough because he said, you could look at her and you would never be able to tell that she was black. And that's just how subtle this thing is sometimes because of what people went through, what they relate to. I have a friend that she's albino. She's Spanish and black. And she hate for you to say anything. She hate to speak Spanish. She won't even use the Spanish too much around people. She want everybody to know that she black. But when you look at her, she has hair like a doll baby. You know, she have blue eyes, and her skin is white. And they just always used to call her doll baby. She don't like it, and she tell them I'm black. So these is about what people relate to or what they've been through, and these little things could be really devastating for people for different reasons. But you know, I always say that in life, we all have to get thicker skin, toughen up, and learn how to, you know, like you said, if you haven't done anything, and not always jump to a conclusion that somebody is intentionally trying to do something to you either. So we have to get to a certain level of maturity where we just let things roll off our back, you know, and not keep absorbing all of that stuff, because it could really mess you up.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So it's a little off topic, but similar in prejudice. So I asked it yesterday on my podcast, so if you were on there, please don't respond. How many people on here are migrants?
Well, I would say none of us are migrants, but none of us are migrants, but None of us are migrants. We come from ancestors. We come from ancestors who were brought over here. Were brought over here by their own choice. Not by their own choice.
Okay, thank you. So I was invited to attend a faith-based immigration webinar, and I learned that a migrant is anyone who lives in a city or state or country that they were not born in.
That's one definition. That's not one definition. That's not the only.
So the migrant is someone who, in terms of immigration, is someone who is living in a city or a state or a country that they were not born in. They were migrated either by their parents or by their choice. Just like we would hear that often where people said, we migrated from the South, many people, to the North because that's where the economy was better. That's where the money could be made. So it was just interesting to me, and today's conversation reminded me of that a little bit because we hold prejudice to people based on our misunderstanding of who they are rather than our understanding of who they are, allowing the agenda makers to set the standard, to set the branding, to define humans on all levels, going back to the LGBTQRWXYZ, because they keep adding letters, the agenda makers. But I just thought that was interesting. Thank you.
Well, I like to say quick what Mbane said before about LGB, and Q and all that, about people being gay. I understand, like she was saying, people are born like that and everything. And I agree with that. But I don't think they should be teaching a 3-year-old or 5-year-old in the school to choose, a sex or something like that at that age. That's all I'm saying. When you become an adult, you can do what you want to do. But should they be teaching that in the school in kindergarten? I don't think they should do that. Let the kid just play,
I think that what needs to be really taught is empathy, and I keep saying that. People need to care about people, point blank, period, and respect people. And with that being said, you never know why somebody is doing what they're doing, how they got started on that road to that mission. But respect them as they respect you. I mean, what bothers me is that when certain people are around, if you want to push your belief system off on me, no. If you want to force it on others, no. I don't care what it is, whether it's being gay or religious or whatever. Stop pushing. Stop pushing. Don't try to force me in any corners. I don't think we should be promoting anything, but we should teach people how to get along. I don't think that we should be like, oh yeah, that's okay. Look, because what I've seen is some people, if you have a young boy acting out and he say some things, I've seen it happen. He say some things the way he say, it's so cute. Oh. Say that again. Do that again. But now this kid's parents was around and they saw that or his father perhaps, he will go off. Stop trying to say and embrace all this stuff. These parents is not trying to say these things and have their kids in these situations, and you're going to make them feel like, oh, don't worry about what they're saying and da-da-da-da. It's okay. You don't have that right to step on in anybody else's house. Like we said, we don't want to be looking at somebody's bedroom and this, that, and the third. We shouldn't be trying to make other people feel like, oh, regardless to what you've been taught at home, your parents, this, that, and that, it's okay. No. It's you have to, I don't know, find a way to let them be okay without promoting that gay is okay, and I don't know. People just take a lot of time to emphasize and push things. I don't know, because I think they're trying to be supportive, and we can let people know that you are wonderful, you're special, you're great, you have good talent, great skills, high IQ, and all of that, without promoting anything that may be a problem somehow for somebody else. I don't know. Because just because society is saying that this is all acceptable and all well and good, now we got to jump out there and say it, whether we believe it's all well and good. No. How you feel is how you feel, and that's how you feel. So I don't think we should be judging anybody in any manner. Nobody. But I don't want you to teach my kid that, oh, do you see them doing something? Because sometimes kids do something they see somebody else do. Are we going to embrace it and just push them down in that direction? No, that's not right. So sometimes people they step past their boundaries. So, and that's what you got to be careful of. One thing I always say, I look at my children, how they raise their kids, and I don't try to force my hand with them and make them do things my way. Now, I will have a discussion with them if I think something is headed in the wrong direction or it's wrong. I will speak to their parents. But people just have a takeover mentality. They're going to come, they're going to take over. I'm going to show you the right way to do this, and this is how you're supposed to do this, and this is how you're supposed to do that. And sometimes when we do that, we just go too far. And so that's my concern sometimes. I have to tell a young lady, don't do that. Don't promote this kid. Don't like, you're going to actually pay this kid to do all of these little gestures and stuff, when his father will have a fit and freak out. And if he come in and catch you doing these things and saying and promote this type of thing, he's going to have a fit. You're just a babysitter. You're just a friend. You're out of your bounds. And this is the type of thing that I'm saying that people do. Sometimes people step far past their boundaries and go into their own thing.
Okay. I've sat and listened to all of this all night long. And the biggest thing that comes to mind to me is, one, when you're dealing with education, has anybody started taking a look at who's teaching your kids? It's the people that's living that lifestyle of the LGBTQ community.
Mm-hmm.
And children are easily influenced.
Mm-hmm.
So when they see how well their teacher's doing things and how they're making it, you don't believe that's an influence on these kids?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if my teacher's doing it, I could try that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the term they use for it is vicarious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so to set up and to come up with all of the left wing and the right wing things, that's fine, that's dandy if that's what you're about. But the bottom line is, these are the people that are teaching your children. Back in the day, teachers didn't party with kids. Now, teachers are partying with their students.
Mm-hmm.
So these students are seeing the lifestyle up close and personal.
Mm-hmm.
But the question remains, what do? You stop sending your kids to school because they got gay teachers, principals, and even administrators. Because 25, 30 years ago, being gay was a shameful thing. Now it's a badge of honor. If you're not that way, you don't belong to the upper echelon of society. If that's not how your door swings, you got a closed door and a closed mind to go with it. And that's
Brother Hamp, I agree with what you're saying. And like you said, a lot of the people that are pushing this are of that lifestyle. Like I said, I don't discriminate against anyone. I'm not homophobic. I'm not for the transgender movement, moving in the way they move. But I say, as long as you're doing what you want to do, that is your human right. Now, yeah, don't have a closed mind. But like I'm saying, a lot of this should not be brought into the school. You educate people on it, but it shouldn't be a part of the curriculum as California is trying to bring it in and this and that. That's just my opinion, but I knew I was going to get a rise out of a lot of people tonight with this topic, and I'm glad that it came and you came in and gave some educational or some good insight. Even though you came in late, you came in with some very good insight and contributed to the topic. So we got like 5 minutes left. And this thing took up some time. But I read a lot because I did the research earlier today. And a lot of people elaborated on what I had to say. So I'm going to shut up for the next 5 minutes and let you guys go ahead and help you do your thing like you do at the end of each podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open again.
I'd like to say something, and I'm glad you mentioned who's teaching your children. My pre-kindergarten teacher, Miss Ida D. Meyerowitz, was Jewish, and she was a lesbian. My pre-kindergarten teacher did not encourage her children to be gay. She educated her children, and this is how well she educated them. 1 second. This is well she. My sister followed me 4 years later. She had her in the kindergarten. My niece followed my sister 7 years later. She had my niece in the kindergarten. She graduated them to the 1st grade. She went with them. She went with them all the way up to the 4th grade. As she graduated them to the next level, she followed them. Those children were taught extremely well. They weren't taught to be lesbians. She loved them from the bottom of her heart. The principal would not allow her to go to the 5th grade with them. She hated that black woman for the rest of their lives. She was progressing those children academically. She was not imparting what she did at home when she clocked out of school. But what you're saying is the same thing I'm saying. This is not new. And we're not pushing it. We're not pushing it when we say educate. And yes, the parents could educate the students. But like I said before, when Oprah had those parents on her show, when they started giving out condoms in school back in the mid-'90s, and the parents saying, oh, I don't want my 15-year-old to know about sex. Really? But you have 12 and 13-year-olds who are pregnant. So some parents are able and capable of having educated, informed decisions with their children on any level, whether it's on sexuality or math or reading or English or whatever the subject matter is. But some are not. So the curriculum, because I don't know if you all remember, it's been a minute, but we had health. We have health education in school. And we talk about chromosomes and hormones. We talk about sex and sexuality. Just because it's same sex and that is the conversation, it's not so much we shouldn't have the conversation with the students. Of course, you're not telling them to go and be gay, but guess what? Just like your coworker's son went out for Halloween in a ballerina suit, he may be expressing his inner self, but he may have just been dressed up in costume. Who knows?
He wasn't my son, but I think it's just he was in costume, and that's why I didn't harass the lady about it, because I know I'd have got some slack. But I know he's all guy.
Okay, that's good. But we don't know what's going on with our children, thanks to the agenda makers and how they've manipulated DNA. We don't know what's going on with them. But we do know that many of our young people aren't happy. We do know that many of our young people are angry. We do know that many of our young people, for whatever the crazy reason, commit suicide. We do know this. And to ignore some of the reasons why these things are happening because we don't address the possibilities of what we know is possible, we're not open enough to have a conversation or to receive the information, it's not going to make things any better. So, no, you're not promoting it. You're not saying go out and have sex. And, again, it's all about the bedroom. Stay out of people's bedrooms. It's about how you feel. You feel one way and you look another way. How do we participate in having a kind of neutral conversation? Again, because they go to health. They have health class. So in that, they're learning all of the dynamics and all of the abnormalities of those things. So if the shoe fits and you decide to wear it, where do you go? Who do you talk to? How do you talk to them? So ignoring it is not the answer. And it's the branding. I haven't seen the curriculum. I don't know how it's being taught and what's being said, so I can't speak on that. But just on a human level, prejudice is not good. It's not good. Ooh, okay, sorry, thank you. There's a fight. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Prejudice is not good, but there are still people that are promoting. Maybe not everyone is promoting, but there are those that are, and if they are, I feel like that is wrong. I do feel like there's supposed to be a safe place or some persons that any child should go to in any situation, no matter what they're dealing with. But you can't have everybody talking to your child because they think they know something. You have to be careful of who our children are talking to and what they're talking about and how they're being educated in every area of their life. You have to really be careful. And just to say, you said the teacher did not promote. You never know who she affected by that because you knew she was gay. So some other people knew. You don't know how they related to that or responded and how it affected their lives. You can only see your part. It may have forced other people to decide to take a little try or turn or whatever. You never know. And not everybody that's in that situation, gay, bisexual, whatever, is born like that. Some people have different reasons for coming up into that situation. Some people were raped and molested and went through other channels. Everybody wasn't born gay. I don't know if any were, but I know everyone wasn't. So, it's different things. So people need to really make sure that they have objective, responsible, non-prejudiced type of people working with people as they go through. And sometimes this is just a stage that the children are going through or people are going through, and they may very well change it down the line. One young lady I know was in an abusive relationship left her kid's father, got into a relationship with another female, and went through the same abuse and much worse. And at the end of the day, years later, she got out of it, and she was no longer in that type of situation. So people have different reasons why they do what they do.
All right. Well, with that being said, the old clock on the wall says that's about all. And if there are no more questions, concerns, or statements, then at this time, we will now conclude this episode of the CCC on Wednesday night. Yeah. I know I'll get y'all riled up, man. I you thought I was gonna come up with some BS, but I gave y'all some interesting banter.
No, I don't want him to talk shit while he's here. I'll show you anytime.
They not letting you up no more.
And we 5 minutes over, man. That's a record. Yeah. Well, I'm going back on mute. So Hamp, go ahead and close us out, brother. But yeah, I would definitely like to thank everybody for the input, for joining in on the podcast. And again, Everett, great topic. I'll say it was a little slow developing, but you got us there. And that's what, it's not about how you start, it's how you finish. And with that being said, again, we thank you all for joining in, and we look forward to being a part of some of you all shows throughout the week, as you all ours. So in parting, we say, take care of yourself.
Permission to speak here?
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Sanford Williams, and I have a show that comes on Friday night called Combating Systemic Racism Through Education. And I listened to all that was said. I'm actually a curriculum specialist, and I believe in something called Afrocentricity. And maybe some of your folks might want to tune in on 8 o'clock some Friday night, because there's always something powerful going on related to all these subjects you're talking about, except for the LGBTQ+. I don't discuss that. And I don't discuss the Jewish Holocaust. I deal with the African Holocaust, and many of them. Actually, many millions and millions and millions more Africans were killed than anybody else ever was killed on the planet. Dr. James said Pythagorean theory and so on and so forth. And one of y'all talked about Archimedes. They number of crooks and criminals. The Africans created all of it. But we can't talk about that. And it needs to be a free-wielding kind of show where everybody is discussing what they discuss. So maybe if you tune in to my show sometime, or invite me on your show sometime, we could get some nitty-gritty stuff like critical race theory. Critical race theory is not taught in any school on Earth, K-12, not on the planet Earth. They don't teach it nowhere, but they banished it in about 18 states. I don't know how you're going to banish something that don't exist. It's a subject that's being taught in universities, but interesting discussions. All of it was, and
all right. You said your show is on Friday?
Friday night at 8 p.m. And we deal with systemic racism.
Okay. Is that Central, Eastern?
It's right now it's daylight saving time, USA time zone. It's daylight saving time, Eastern Standard.
Okay.
I'm going forward talking. My name is Sanford Williams, and I really enjoyed your discussion. And, you need more time to develop something like this. There's so many parameters to it. So I invite you to come on my show, and we could discuss it a little bit. A lot of different things. I don't care. It's far-ranging. And I'd like to thank you for your presentment to the people here. Thank you very much, and have a great week, rest of the week, and stay safe. Peace and blessings to you.
Well, thank you. And I'm sure you put it out, so we will be tuning in.
I'll give you my phone number if you like, because I had your phone number, but I don't want to call you willy-nilly, so I'll give you my phone number. 571-910-3903. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. And again, you all heard it. This show is on Fridays at 8. So we'll be looking forward to tuning in and continuing on with this type of conversation on his show.
And
but
tomorrow.
Until that time. And tomorrow, go ahead, girl.
7 a.m. we have the prayer call in the morning. We also have the Real Americans at 8:30 tomorrow. So I just wanted to make sure we at least announce some of them for Bill Graves.
Okay. And while we are still open, anyone else with a show on that is on the line at this time, please broadcast your show.
Positive Impact Sundays, 7 p.m. I think Mr. Williams, he's been holding it down for me for the last 2 Sundays because I have some other things going on, other engagements. But Positive Impact, gospel music, and positive, encouraging words, upliftment for anyone that comes online. You may even get a song or two out of Adrian.
All right.
On Mondays at 4 p.m. from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Evadane with Company, talk worth listening to. And so far, that's what it's been. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Well, at this time, again, we thank you all for chiming in. We definitely appreciate your time, your comments, and concerns. And again, we part by saying, take care of yourselves and each other. We bid you all a good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.